I don't know if you noticed, but it's 2026 now, which has me thinking of what we were blessed with in terms of animated shows last year, which I knew was a good bit, but I hadn't realized just how much cartoony content we got in 2025 until I did some research for this video. We got it pretty good. Some years there are more original shows that debut than others. In other years it's mainly shows we know and love getting new seasons and episodes. This past year we got a good mix of new shows and new seasons of pre-existing shows. And in this streaming service age we live in, I think the easiest way to review all the cartoons we got is to go through about the half dozen or so streaming services required to watch all of these shows. But honestly, some of the best stuff we got isn't even behind any streaming service paywall, thanks to the many talented and underrated indie animated projects that are free on YouTube. But I think I want to end with those awesome shows. We'll start by recapping what Walt and his Mickey Mouse Empire did this past year. I'm just going to start by briefly mentioning these 3 Marvel animated Disney Plus titles. I haven't actually watched any of them, but I think it's pretty cool to see Marvel's IPs being portrayed via the medium of animation. Marvel, and really any superhero content in general, can be very strongly presented through animation, and I'm happy to see that Marvel's taking advantage of this. Except if I want to watch an animated superhero show, I think I'll stick with some of the great classics like Teen Titans or Batman the Animated Series, or even some of the great newer shows like Harley Quinn or Invincible. However, I do want to dive deeper into a different Disney Plus animated show, this one being produced by the folks over at Pixar, and I'm talking about Win or Lose. Pixar, of course, has mostly put out movies and shorts for the past several years, but they've dipped their toes into shows these past couple years thanks to the Disney Plus platform. There were things like Monsters at Work and Dream Productions, which each had their own cool things going for them, but Win or Lose is the first Pixar animated show that isn't expanding upon an already existing Pixar movie. So this show brought with it a fresh set of characters and settings that was very refreshing to watch. The show was about a youth baseball team, so it had my attention right off the bat, but I was immediately hooked by the way Win or Lose told its story by giving each character their own retrospective episode. Each character felt deeply thought out and realized, and everyone was able to play off one another well with this episodic format. I watched it all in one sitting and was left feeling that awesome reputation of warmth and emotion that Pixar has been delivering on for 20 plus years now. There are a few more things that Disney did this year, specifically with Disney TVA, those being the Craig of the Creek series finale and the long-awaited return of the Phineas and Ferb Season 5. Now, neither of these 2 shows are really my go-tos, but I love that both were able to get new content this year. Craig of the Creek aired its season finale, See You Tomorrow at the Creek, way back in January of 2025. It marked the final episode of the 6th and final season of Craig of the Creek that I love to see was popular and successful enough to get the number of seasons that it did. I love Matt Burnett and all he has contributed to the animation community, and I think he was able to successfully land his Cartoon Network show in this cozy series finale. But speaking of Legends of Animation, you've got Diane Povenmire and Jeff Marsh both returning for Phineas and Ferb Season 5. Watching brand new episodes of this all-time classic cartoon with my friends to start my summer was such a blast. The episodes are as wacky and witty as ever, and it was nice to see a franchise just return to form and give the show a long-awaited new season as opposed to a downgraded or mediocre attempt at a remake or reboot. Except that kinda did happen with Hamster and Gretel, but we don't have to worry about that. We got us some classic Phineas and Ferb, classic Perry and Doof, everything we loved back in 2007 when the show aired, we got more of it. Just 18 years later. The whole Candace suit thing was a bit cursed though. I don't know how I feel about that. Best not to think about it too hard and just move on to the other billion-dollar company's streaming service. Prime Video has dipped their Amazonian toes into the world of animation, and in 2025, we saw 2 of their most popular animated series get some brand new seasons. Those being Invincible Season 3, that debuted on February 6th, and Hazbin Hotel Season 2, that debuted on October 29th. I'll start with the first that came out and talk about Invincible. Invincible Season 3 was as brutal as ever, like, in a good way. The amount of action and bloodshed we got this season was as plentiful as always. It is actually kind of crazy just how much conflict they were able to cram into one season. You've got Mark's beef with Cecil, the Alan and Omni-Man side plot, that episode with the whole dragon thing, not to mention the 3 biggest events of the season with Powerplex, the Invincible War, and Conquest. It was a blast and a half. Each and every week we got new Invincible content. And as someone who has never read the comic books, it was a new exciting thrill each time. Invincible has revolutionized the superhero genre as a whole, and this season really helped add to the show's already strong resume. This season, we also saw a slight boost in animation quality, which is always a little sketchy, but they have been releasing new seasons every year it seems, so I'll cut them some slack. With this show's absolutely loaded cast of voice actors and one-of-a-kind brutal action sequences, Invincible is the one piece of superhero media I would recommend anyone watch right now, over whatever Marvel or DC's cooking up right now. But over to Hazbin Hotel now, and we got season 2 of the very beloved series just recently, and I have a lot of good and not as good thoughts on the season. And I'll start with the good. I'm not trying to bum myself out too much to start the year. The season 2 soundtrack is fantastic, which I knew it would be. Vivian always prioritizes quality music in her projects, but this time around I was shocked at just how many songs this season fit in. There are 20 songs in 8 episodes. That's kind of bonkers. Now, they probably are too overcrammed in there because many of them seem pretty forced and the plot had to be written around some of the numbers, but I'll touch on that more in a minute. I want to first appreciate just how well produced and performed these songs are. Everyone did such an amazing job and the arrangements are all bangers. I really can't pick out any songs from this season that I actively don't enjoy listening to, which is something I couldn't say for the show's debut season. I will put on screen now my personal rankings of them. They really are so excellent though, it's really more of a toss-up this time around. I am particularly fond of Sarah's Confession, as it's so regal and powerful sounding. It makes you feel on top of the world after you listen to it. Love in a Bottle is also great, even if it is just a slightly less good version of Loser Baby. Gravity is an intense and awesome ballad. Losing Streak showcase Blake Roman's gorgeous tenor range, and Clean It Up is just Kamiko Glenn being a little goofball. I could go on and on about each song from this season and why I love it. Really, besides the finale number, Hear My Hope, which is kind of not that great, this season is a lot more consistent with its music than season 1, even if it can't top a few of the songs we got in season 1. I might just make a video diving into my rankings a bit more, but enough about me gushing about the music. The show did have a plot with it too, which admittedly I can't gush as much about. The plot and characters this time are just kind of lousy and inconsistent. I'm not exactly sure why. Charlie lost pretty much all of her growth and development from season 1, and is so frustrating now. Vox was entertaining, for sure, but his downfall in the finale was way too quick and pathetic. Even Alistair, a character that has a slam dunk for being a must-watch, just felt less intimidating and captivating. His backstory was good though, that definitely helped. But they had Lute sing a banger number, hype her up, and then just drop her off the face of the earth until the very end, where she just walked away from a fight. Now, I love Hazbin Hotel, don't get me wrong. Its success from an indie project on YouTube to a global phenomenon on Prime Video is one of the most impressive things I've ever seen happen to a cartoon. What I think happened with this season was just a bit too much fan service with the ships and the songs about those ships, and probably a bit too many characters that just physically can't be properly fleshed out and given enough screen time in an 8-episode span. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Hazbin Hotel lost its footing or can't find its direction. This season may just be a bridge to the ones to come, because after all, it already got greenlit for seasons 3 and 4, which in hindsight could make season 2 stronger, depending on what those deliver. We will be revisiting the Helliverse soon enough, but let's take a look at what Adult Swim was up to this past year. Adult Swim certainly had themselves a busy 2025. Adult animation as a whole has been on the up and up for the past several years now, so it doesn't come as a surprise to me that Adult Swim came out swinging. I'll start with the network's 2 most popular IPs at the moment, because Rick and Morty and Smiling Friends both aired new, excellent seasons. Season 8 of Rick and Morty, while probably not as elite as some of the content of seasons past, was still very solid. The writing is as clever as ever, and Rick and Morty is such a well-produced show that even after over a decade with these characters, the show can still hook us and make some of the most rewatchable works of animated television out there. I like the Cryo Mort and No Mortland episodes from this past season, they were some highlights, and the finale was also real emotional and fun. We are in the post-Justin Roiland era with Rick and Morty, and even with the change of creator and voice actor, the show continues to produce high-quality seasons about every year or so. Now, on the Smiling Friends end of things, we got the third season of this wildly popular and wacky cartoon. The season spanned the length of 8 episodes, and my main takeaway from this season is centered around how fantastic the animation is this season. The show is so beloved right now, it makes sense that it is being given the time and resources to make beautiful content. Each episode seems to have multiple scenes or moments that stand out for having elite visuals and animation. The excellent animation paired with the unique style that the show has, incorporating 2D animation, 3D animation, even claymation and live action, it just makes for such a fascinating and captivating watch. It doesn't surprise me that the show's crazy art style and unique conversational dialogue are making it a global sensation that seems to only get more popular by the day. I won't dive deep into each episode we got. I truly think you just have to watch them for yourself, but there are several moments from the season that I loved that just stood out to me. The usage of Creed Bratton as Mr. Frog's dad was amazing. Some of the jokes and shots from the Mother Nature episode had me rolling, and there were multiple scenes this season where Charlie is like sick and the animation goes off the rails. It's great. Here's my ranking of the episodes from this season real quick, just so you can compare with your own list. But enough of these huge shows. Adult Swim did 2 other things a bit more under the radar that I honestly loved more than both the new seasons of Rick and Morty and Smiling Friends. I'll start by talking about Common Side Effects, which I have crowned as the best original animated show of 2025, by the way. Congratulations. Common Side Effects is another animated show by the creative mind of Joseph Bennett, showrunner of Scavenger's Reign, which that show was one of my favorite pieces of media of the past decade, so I knew I had to give this show a watch. Common Side Effects at its core is simply a show about a drug that has magical medicinal properties and how big pharma and psychotic individuals would react to such a substance being around. It really isn't a groundbreaking concept, but what makes it so great here is the way the show executed it. Common Side Effects is really good at pairing this psychedelic and mind-boggling drug, and the equally as psychedelic visuals the drug brings with it, with the very human and real conflicts and consequences we hear a cast of characters go through. The show certainly falls under the umbrella of crime drama, but it really pushes the boundaries of that genre, which is what I believe makes it such a strong contender for Animated Show of the Year. There is definitely a world where this show could have fallen flat and been another adult animated show with bobblehead character designs and subpar plot devices that make it a painfully mediocre watch. We are no strangers to adult cartoons fitting that description. But Common Side Effects did what it had to do in order to avoid those stereotypes and cement itself as one of Adult Swim's strongest modern cartoons with beautiful animation, intriguing drama, and mature theming. The other show that actually touches all 3 of those bases is Gendy's Primal, which actually just got a new season, but not until January of 2026. Now, I want to end this very long segment about Adult Swim by addressing one of the most creative and unique things they've made this year. But not only is it unique for Adult Swim, or even animation as a whole, it is one of the most peculiar, impressive, and inventive concepts for any work of television ever. And that is the elephant. When I saw the concept for this experimental show, alongside the names attached to it, my excitement levels went sky high. I may be wrong, but I feel like this has got to be the first work of media that split itself into 3 teams of directors, writers, and animators, and each group didn't know what the other was doing. I imagine if something like that was done before, it wasn't pulled off nearly as good as the elephant. Which, by the way, it took me so long to realize why it was called that, but it's super cool as to why. I'll touch on that in a minute. Right now, I have to read you some of the names of the showrunners that got to split into the 3 teams, because it's absurd. You've got Patrick McHale, creator of Over the Garden Wall on one, Pendleton Ward, creator of Adventure Time on another, and Rebecca Sugar and Ian Jones-Cordy collaborating as part of the 3rd group. They were the showrunners of Steven Universe and OKKO respectively, and getting this level of legends in an industry to collaborate on one project is practically unheard of. Yet, here we are with The Elephant. This project structure is based off something known as the Exquisite Corpse game, where a group of 3 individuals illustrate segments of a character, like the head, torso, and legs, in complete isolation, not knowing or seeing what the others have drawn. At the end of the game, you are left with a creative amalgamation of a character design that unites each character's style and ideas. The idea of a company bringing in 4 animation superstars in of itself is amazing. but I had to give the special a watch just to see if this ambitious experiment could actually produce something worthwhile. In a news article, one individual wrote that what should have been a total disaster instead birthed a surprisingly fluid narrative that serves as yet another reminder that Adult Swim is the one channel still putting the pursuit of artistic exploration at the forefront of decision making. I think this analysis is perfect and really hits the nail on the head of the direction Adult Swim is going as a company and why allowing talented people to pursue artistic exploration, while risky, is so worth it, since it can produce masterpiece type stuff like we see in The Elephant. After viewing The Elephant for myself, it wasn't really the fluidity of the story that impressed me the most. Rather, it was the sheer awe and appreciation I was able to experience by watching something that was so clearly a remarkable achievement of creativity and community coming together. The show didn't have to be cohesive to be a triumph. In fact, Rebecca Sugar even said herself that the project being cohesive wasn't really the point, and having that knowledge makes me appreciate The Elephant even more, because it allows me to look past the flaws of the project, which are, like, in the story, it's all over the place. But unlike other cartoons, this show is purely trying to just embrace the medium of animation like it's never been embraced before. If you haven't watched The Elephant yet, it's on HBO Max, and I would highly recommend it. But what I would actually recommend even higher is the making of documentary Behind the Elephant. Seeing the process of this creative endeavor and watching our three groups of animation legends really just take in what they made together was so awesome. Okay, time to move on to whatever Netflix was doing on their end. And I promise it won't take as long as Adult Swim. Netflix animation has some of my favorite shows of all time, like She-Ra and the Princesses of Power and The Dragon Prince, as well as some all-time classics like BoJack Horseman and Arcane League of Legends. Yes, I'm already considering that an all-time classic, it's that incredible. 2025, however, was a fairly quiet year for Netflix animation. That is, for TV series. Everyone knows how popular K-pop Demon Hunters is, but I'm not here to talk about that movie. I think it's been talked about enough, yeah. We got to see the third season of Blood of Zeus, a gorgeous and exciting action anime, as well as the fourth volume of the beautiful animation cornucopia that is Love, Death, and Robots. Now, I truly don't really have anything else insightful to add or say about what we got from Blood of Zeus, so I think I'm going to focus in on Love, Death, and Robots here. I actually think this was kind of the weakest volume we have seen thus far, but it's half a gripe to this volume, but more a huge compliment to the other three. They were all so excellent. I will lead with saying that as far as animation quality goes, there's no complaints from me there. The show is always going to look remarkable and unique thanks to the series bringing in talent from all over the globe. Just going through the batch of 10 that we got, I've never really cared for the very short miniature-based episodes, so Close Encounters of the Mini Kind and Can't Stop were not my cup of tea. Same thing with Smart Appliances, Stupid Owners. It kind of just felt like Volume 2's automated customer service episode, but I was less invested in it. The only other one I wasn't super fond of was Golgotha, which felt like it was trying to do something philosophical and sophisticated, like with The Drowned Giant, how the whole episode's set in one primary location and there's a lot of poem-style dialogue happening on screen. Drowned Giant was just way better in my opinion. The season had 2 cat-themed episodes, which, sign me up for. I love my gatos. Before You Can Creep was really fun. I love the synopsis of Satan bows a cat for the soul of a poet. Come on, that's great. Then there was The Other Large Thing, which was very charming and simple, was about a cat playing world domination, voiced by Jerry Smith from Rick and Morty. Which that kind of reminded me of the Rick and Morty episode where Jerry befriends the cat, but the cat is revealed to have done some insane, inhumane stuff. I like to think that that cat is the same cat from this Love, Death, and Robots episode, and he just crossed so many lines while taking over the world or something. But anyway, you got a couple other episodes here before I discuss my favorite of the bunch. The one with the spider lady was great. The dinosaur racing one reminded me of the race scene from Ready Player One, so that's cool. And the 400 Boys one was really aesthetic and well produced. What I think those three have in common is just how well they are able to build a world and transport me as the viewer into that space. The artistry and soundtracks for those three were really immersive, and it's that immersion that I always go back to and impressed with whenever I get the chance to watch Love, Death, and Robots. My favorite episode though, I think, is How Zeke Got Religion. This is the same animation style and studio that made The Very Pulse of the Machine, my favorite episode from the prior season, and the entire series as a whole. So I am a little biased probably, but this episode is an absolute thrill from beginning to end. The episode has some gruesome carnage, like in a good Invincible kind of way. How Zeke Got Religion feels like I took the best parts of my two favorite episodes from Volume 3 and combined them into one. You got the next level artistry and the deep, rich dialogue of The Very Pulse of the Machine, like I mentioned, but you've also got that raw and visceral tone with the mysterious deadly creature, like Bad Traveling had with the pirates and the sea monster thing. I love how this episode just wasn't afraid to swing for the fences with killing off characters, but was very intentional about its rooted message and captivating visuals. Give Love, Death, and Robots a watch if you haven't yet. It's one of those rare, knock it out in one weekend type shows that wouldn't leave you disappointed. So, what was Cartoon Network up to in 2025, huh? Other than shutting down the amazing Cartoon Network Hotel in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, of course. I will miss you dearly. But yeah, Cartoon Network did a few things this past year. Nothing original, which isn't surprising, but we got some cool things. The Wonderfully Weird World of Gumball came out with 20 episodes on July 28th and 20 more episodes on December 22nd, making for seasons 1 and 2. So technically this isn't new seasons of The Amazing World of Gumball. This one's an entirely different thing. It's wonderful instead of amazing. But what we ultimately got from these 40 episodes was more of the great Gumball that we know and love, just with a bit of a different coat of paint. But like not that much of a different coat. We went from like violet paint to like purple paint. It's basically the same thing. This season had a lot of really awesome animation, which is a given, of course, considering how off the rails this show was allowed to and really designed to get with its character designs and combo 2D and 3D animation styles. Shout out to when we got about like 25 seconds worth of James Baxter animation. That honestly might have been the highlight of the whole season. What I love most about Gumball though, and it's maintained it through these new episodes, is how well made they are, how they're willing to jump between episodic and overarching storylines, and most importantly, how easily rewatchable of a cartoon I think it is. The show, considering what it is, could very easily be very episodic, but I think it's probably the most rewatchable cartoon not named Rick and Morty. Our characters are all beloved and plentiful, the writing is constantly witty and clever, and the mixed mediums of animation never make for a boring watch. Then you have Fiona and Cake Season 2, which released every Thursday from October 23rd up until Christmas Day. The first season we got from this show was truly excellent. Might just be one of my favorite pieces of Adventure Time content that I've ever watched. I feel like this season was a good bit more inconsistent than what we received from the show's debut season, but it still was really good stuff. While season 1 locked in on Simon's character and how he's able to overcome his grief and tackle his past trauma with Betty, this season focused a lot more on Huntress Wizard, the dynamic she has with Finn, who by the way is in a coma this whole season, so that's interesting. I feel like a lot of screen time this season was allotted to Fiona and her relationship craziness with DJ Flame and like 3 other people at the same time, but I guess Finn was also a huge simp in the OG series, so I'll give it a pass. I do think that the final 2 episodes of 9 and 10 this season were the season's best. We finally get to see Fiona learn a lesson from seeing everyone's painful memories, which is good because she's really extra selfish and annoying this season. But these final episodes remedy that. I do think the last episode was the strongest of the 10. The tension feels real, the set building with Fiona going into Finn's subconscious is really neat, and seeing Huntress hop between dimensions like she does is really fun. Adam Muto is the one overseeing this show, and I think he is taking the Adventure Time franchise in a really good direction by making it for a bit more of a mature audience and expanding upon the characters from the beloved series. The world and characters of OO is boundless when it comes to the stories that can be written inside of it, so we honestly might just get Adventure Time content forever at this point, which is fine with me. I'll definitely be watching it. Okay, now to move on to the last segment of this video, indie animation. The best way to consume cartoons nowadays, if we're being honest. 2025 was yet another fantastic year for indie showrunners, proving yet again that even shows with tiny teams and tinier budgets can make shows just as good, if not better, than a lot of the things on streaming service giants. I'll start with a pair of shows in which chances are pretty good you haven't seen either of them. You got the 5th episode of Monkey Wrench, made by Joshua Palmer, and the 4th episode of Bob's World, made by Wisdom Nunn, both of which came out the same week in late September last year. That's kind of cool. Monkey Wrench is an intergalactic epic that has really impressive and dynamic animation. What I loved about this most recent episode, however, was how much it leaned into making this show story-driven and rich with layered conflict. It opened with the backstory of the different races of primary colors, and that alone made me excited with the potential story beats that can be written around that. While I wouldn't call Monkey Wrench my favorite indie project, I love how excellent the show always presents itself, and the writing and character development took a huge step in the right direction with this most recent iteration. And then you have the new episode of Bob's World, which currently has just north of 1,000 views, which is honestly criminal. I have 12 videos on my own channel with more views, and Wisdom is far more talented than I am, so go boost that view count. Episode 3 of the series really expanded upon and improved the storyboarding elements, voice acting, and fluidity of animation, especially in the ruins scenes. Now, with episode 4, we continue to see a jump in all those things and more. The story in this episode was the most coherent and has the best staying power of any episode yet, in my opinion. But man, this episode's animation and soundtrack in the dynamic fight scenes are S-tier level stuff. I knew that Wizzy specialized in audio production and design, and that is made known in this Bob's World episode. This episode felt really reminiscent of Atlas and the Stars, another phenomenal indie animated show. I wish Wisdom and everyone working with Bob's World all the best moving forward. I think he has something really good cooking over there, and with the right support and some solid plot direction, Bob's World could go down as one of the most impressive works of animation in comparison to the size team working on it. Okay, and to wrap up this video, it seems fitting that we talk about the seemingly endless number of projects that Glitch Productions is doing over there. They started with the initial projects of Meta Runner and Sunset Paradise, really solid starting blocks for this animation studio that would soon bring in Murder Drones. The show was a huge hit and got its 8th and final episode back in 2024. I think it was that show that was able to serve as a spark plug for this company to be where it is today. Because following Murder Drones, we got the release of The Amazing Digital Circus, which is by a long shot the most viewed indie animated anything of all time, like for sure. We got 3 new episodes of the series in 2025, and I'll break down my favorite couple of things from each episode right now. Episode 5, Untitled, was the one where we jumped all around from adventure to adventure thanks to the suggestion box thingy. I loved the anime segment, that was kind of awesome. We got a lot of great dialogue about Jax. His character kind of takes a front row seat in the episodes following this, so it was cool to see his arc explored a bit more. We of course had the whole intermission scene, which I couldn't help but see all over social media, paired with every song imaginable with a similar BPM. Then you got them playing baseball, which is amazing for a concept. Baseball's the best. The only thing better than baseball is the disappearing guy, who makes his debut in this episode. Shout out to the disappearing guy. Episode 6 was about guns. They all got them. This episode is probably my least favorite of the 2025 bunch, but it was still great fun. The scene with Kinger and Ragatha towards the end was awesome. They really should put Kinger in the dark more often. Whenever he says stuff that actually makes sense, it makes the show better. There was the Daisy Bell scene with Pomni and Jax, which again, absolutely took over my social media feed for about 3 weeks straight. But then we got to episode 7, which was just so good, guys. It was so good. The whole episode practically served to put all the digital circus theorists in their place. They are so many steps ahead of us, and I love it. Introducing the episode as the beach episode not only puts our characters in new marketable outfits and gave Zach Hadel another side character to voice in someone else's show, it also serves as a perfect distraction for the chaos that this episode had in store. The scene of naked Jax floating through Fractal Land was the perfect amount of trippy as we saw him nearly abstract. But what this episode really had going for it was the insane, shocking twist ending. Just when we thought that our cast found a way to escape the circus, and that Jax messed everything up in the end, it all turned out to be a big trick by Kane, proving that he truly is the ringleader and puppeteer of our characters, and that we might all as well start back at ground zero with our theories. This show is really excellent. Don't let the wacky 3D visuals or overly playful tone turn you off from experiencing one of the best indie animated shows of all time. But Glitch didn't confine themselves to just Digital Circus in 2025. In fact, they aired 2 pilot episodes of brand spanking new animated shows entitled The Gaslight District and Knights of Guinevere. The Gaslight District is a super stylistic animated pilot featuring all kinds of cool undead characters, and it falls under the umbrella of gothic crime drama indie animated series. I'm calling that an umbrella because I think Lackadaisy also kind of perfectly fits that description as well. I'm so excited for more Lackadaisy, y'all. The pilot was so good. But this Gaslight District pilot was a blast. The 3D animation is top of the line. The action scenes are plentiful and as competent as can be. The show really has so much of what makes a good cartoon. There is only so much commentary one can make on a 25-minute long pilot, but I think the main thing I can confidently say is this show is in excellent hands at Glitch Productions. This style and genre of content being so dark and gothic for sure has its audience, and I'm looking forward to seeing just how much we get from the Gaslight District in 2026. It's kind of fitting that I can end this video talking about Knights of Guinevere, as it was by far my most anticipated animated project of the year. The show is created by a team of people including Dana Terrace, showrunner of The Owl House, so my hopes were astronomical for what this series could be. Just from the first few minutes into this psychological thriller series, I knew that it was just what I thought it would be. It is Dana's creativity poured into the mold of an indie animated series meant for older audiences, which just means that this creative genius was given full creative control and direction. Like, there's no world where that recipe doesn't produce a masterpiece. The art style the show has, as well as some of the Studio Ghibli-like lore and storylines, makes me think of some of the best parts of Bee and Puppycat. Again, another indie animated show that I just adore. Indie projects really are just better than anything else. But Knights of Guinevere truly hits all the right notes from what I think a great animated pilot should have. Superb visuals and animation. A rich plot with boundless potential to sprout. And a team of writers, voice actors, audio engineers, and post-production folks that can easily rival any big animation company's best show at the moment. It really is no surprise that this show, that is clearly inspired by both Western animation and Eastern animes, that has one of the best teams of creative and technical minds in the country, have made a show that is already so beloved and appreciated. Give Knights of Guinevere a watch, y'all. It was one of the best things to come out in 2025, period. Oh, and they already confirmed a whole new show, debuting in May, called Gameoverse. So I might just have to make another recap video next year. Yippee!